Welcome to our webinar, Use a Tablet to Make Value-Based Pricing Easy. Allow me to introduce today's presenters. Our presenters today are Jay Manson, VP of Sales, and Ed Arnold, VP of Products. Take it away, Ed and Jay.
Thank you all for joining us here at Leverage Point today. Whether you are in sales, marketing, pricing, or finance, whether you believe in the power of pricing or you have questions, you are all always welcome here at Leverage Point's virtual office.
Yes, welcome everyone. This is Ed Arnold, and I want everyone to know that this is another of our monthly webinars sponsored by Leverage Point. Leverage Point provides the software solution for value-based pricing. You can find out more about us by visiting our website, www.leveragepoint.com. That's where you'll find the recording for this and all our previous webinars, plus other resources. Let's take a look at our agenda for today. So we're here to talk about the iPad, and an alternate title for this webinar could be Value-Based Pricing. Yeah, there's an app for this. And we have a 30-minute webinar. We keep these short. We're going to first talk about the age of the iPad or the tablets is here. Then we're going to talk about why value-based pricing isn't so hard as some say it is. And then we're going to do an iPad demonstration, which we've recorded. And one of the reasons why we've recorded it is because this technology is so new that the GoToWebinar software really doesn't accommodate it. So we're going to show a recorded demonstration that we've done, and we'll voice over that live. And then, as always, we'll leave a few minutes for Q&A. Now, at any time during the presentation, you can ask our moderator, Aaron, a question by using the chat feature, which is on the right-hand side of the application. All right, so let's begin. So, iPads are really, really hot. I know that because I had to stand in line for about a couple hours to buy one a couple weeks ago. And a lot of what we're seeing in the press is that we're at an inflection point in terms of the technology. That is that people are moving away from conventional laptops and are moving into tablets, mostly led by the iPad, but with others to follow. And in fact, I found it was really interesting that Walt Mossberg of the Wall Street Journal does a column on technology. Annually, he talks about which laptops to buy. This year, he advised not to buy any laptops, to wait for tablets to come out.
Ed and I could probably make up a good story about how we were anticipating this explosion in the iPad market, but it's really only half true. I mean, we did expect that our application would be used on iPads at some point in time, but it really wasn't until our customers came to us and showed us how they were using their iPad and our application with their iPad that we really started to understand what is the power of the iPad in enabling value-based pricing. It's really allowing our customers to scale value-based pricing.
Mm-hmm. Now, the press is saying a lot about tablets. We'd like to know what our audience is thinking about them right now. So we have a polling question that we'd like to push up right now. And that is, does your organization's sales force use a mobile device such as tablets like the iPad or similar device? And there are 5 choices. The first one is yes, already using them. No, but in the process of implementing them. No, but seriously considering them. 4th, no immediate plans. Or 5th, very unlikely, if ever. So if everyone could just quickly select one of those responses, we'll keep the polls open for a minute or two, and we'll be interested to see what the results are. Jay.
So those of you who've heard this before, this is where Ed always embarrasses me and asks me to guess. Where do you think the answer is going to be? I would think most of them will be letter C, No, but seriously considering them. What's interesting is that we're seeing a lot of personal sales folks investing personally in iPads because they find them as useful implements, and that's forcing organizations to seriously consider a broader implementation.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would have to agree with that, given the fact that it's so hard to get your hands on them. So I'd be really surprised if we've got a different answer than that. But we'll see. So I'll look at my colleague here and ask if he feels everyone's responded.
Just one more minute.
Okay, we're going to give another moment.
Alrighty, we'll close the poll.
Okay, so the results should be displayed on your screen momentarily. And wow, okay, so it looks like
Jay was wrong again.
He was right again. Wow, we've got well, it's really interesting that no one responded to very unlikely, if ever. So that's good to see. I think people recognize that this is technology that's here to stay. But 75% are either buying them or about to consider them. So I think that's good results there. All right, so let's get into the body of the. I'm going to advance the slide here. Hold on. Okay. So part of the inspiration for this webinar came from a quote that we saw in a blog that we follow. Not to pick on this consultant, he is a respected colleague of ours, but we've heard this sentiment of late, which is the fact that, hey, value-based pricing is a great thing to do, everyone should do it, but keep in mind that it's extremely difficult and can take years to implement for a whole lot of reasons. And that's sort of one thing that we've heard of late. So, we wanted to share a different point of view about that.
Yeah, well, actually, I think Mark is right. Mark Burton's really is a thought leader in the space, and I think he's right. Without technology, implementing a value-based program is not just difficult, I believe it's impossible. You need technology in order to do it. We all know that value-based pricing delivers profit advantage at a given product or at a given customer or at a market level. We've seen it. We've seen examples of where it's been successful and driven profitability for us. The real question is, how do we make the success of one scale to all of our products and all of our customers? And that's really the question that Mark's getting at right here. How do we remove complexity? And how do we overcome the change management issues that are involved with implementing a value-based, and I want to emphasize the word, program here? I think first we need to think about value-based pricing as a business process. For business process to work and drive efficiency and drive profitability, you need the right data delivered in a timely manner. And for value-based pricing, that data is value data. So what do we mean by value data? If a feature is what we offer and a benefit is why a customer should care, value is what our solution is worth to the customer in euros, dollars, drachma, and real currency, right? So who determines value? Well, it's our customers who determine value, our customers and our prospects. And who spends the most time with our customers and prospects? Well, salespeople do. What we see is most organizations try and implement a value-based program. They spend a tremendous amount of time trying to collect data from customers maybe some from prospects, but they never have that real-time interaction that a salesperson has with a customer. To make value-based pricing scalable, we need to arm sales with the implements, the solutions, and the messages that allow them to engage in a value-based discussion. When they engage in that value-based discussion, we need the solution there to capture that critical value data so that we can drive a true value-based pricing program.
Yeah, not only that they need to capture that they need to be able to collaborate with others in the organization around the value-based strategy.
Because ultimately, value is fickle. It's changing at all times. Competitors are coming out with new products and offers. They're changing their price points. That changes our value. Customers' expectations and understandings and businesses are changing dramatically. So value is constantly moving, so we need to have a dynamic measure of value.
But it's not all about tablets, isn't it? I mean, there's other technology that makes this scalable.
Yeah, if I think about it, what I think is that the iPad or the tablet is a great implement, right? It's a great implement that allows you to put this information, and we're going to show it in the video in a few minutes, but how you put this information in front of a customer so that the sales organization can deal with it dynamically and we can capture it. So you need the implement as well as the solution put together. So really it's the tablet plus the SaaS solution. Now a SaaS solution has a whole series of benefits. Real-time input, real-time data capture, and the ability to meet with a customer at any place. And that's part of the reason why we're seeing such adoption of SaaS solutions in the CRM space.
Right. There's a lot of industry reports about the growth of the SaaS sector. In clients that we're talking to, organizations that never used SaaS before are now looking at it seriously, and sales seems to be one of the first areas they're looking at.
So let's just talk briefly about our solution. I think it will help as you see the video that Ed's about to walk you through. So if you think about what the Leverage Point solution does, it allows finance, pricing, product development, marketing, operations, all to get together to collaborate around what is the economic value we think we deliver, linking that value with price so that you're able to communicate a value proposition. That hypothesis around the value proposition is then passed to sales. Sales engages with it because they're trying to close the deal. This is critical content that they need in order to close a deal and to get a customer to buy. The salesperson interacts with multiple customers. Using this information with multiple customers, they change the value data within it. It gets passed back inside our organization. So again, finance, pricing, product development, and marketing can use this information to create efficiency. What we're really enabling here is the capture of value data so that you can truly implement a value-based pricing program. So now let's just take a step back and let Ed walk you through a brief video.
All right, so let me advance to the next slide. Now, as I said, tablets currently do not play well with GoToWebinar, so we've recorded a 7-minute demo that we're going to describe right now to see this in action in a customer location. But I'll caution some of our users that depending on your network connection, the playback may appear a little bit choppy, but we've provided a URL that will play this on a YouTube player. So you have that choice if you want to click on that, or actually it's in the chat. So if you look in the right-hand side, you can click on that. You can look at that later as well if you just want to watch us on the screen. If you want to click on that link, we'll keep that open a little bit longer. All right, so let's get that started. And you'll see this handsome sales guy walking down the hall, and he has an iPad in his hand, and he's about to engage with a customer in a value-based pricing discussion. And the scenario here is that he's a construction product salesperson calling on a project manager at Ace Construction. And he's there to talk about a new waterproofing solution. So prior to the meeting, a salesperson would be reviewing this catalog of value packages he's created for other clients, like we see here, Park Street Business Centers and others. And he can review those. He can look at the details of those to get an understanding of what things worked in previous interactions with customers. And you'll notice there's some information there, and on the right a value chart, which is comparing the value of his solution in green versus the competitor solution in blue. So this is part of what he would do to get prepared for the customer call. And then really what we want to do here is start talking about it in terms of this customer, right? We're collecting this live Ace Construction. So we are going to start this this new value proposition here for Ace Construction.
So really what we're supporting here is sales best practice. We're helping the salesperson put together the benefit statement of a like customer, and now spend some time exploring that value proposition with the customer. So the first thing that the salesperson is going to do is try and capture the customer's name, because we're building a value proposition that's unique for that customer.
That's right. So we're typing that in right now. And as you see below that name, there's a value proposition summary. On the right, once we zoom out, you'll see the chart that explains the overall value. You're saving that right now. And below, there is a table that talks about the key value messages and the specific value that those value messages have. So this is sort of the general value proposition. We'll be going through the first value message, was really talking about, if you can read that, about leaks that cause construction delays. So you'll notice that there's a statement there. There are some questions that guide that discussion, that open a discussion with the customer. And in the course of that discussion, salesperson is going to be learning some important things about that customer's project, say. And that information is just inputted directly into these value equations. For example, here, project size and square foot. Different projects, different customers. There's other different operators there as well. This information is updated on the fly. And as that information is being captured, the value proposition, the actual value reflected in the chart, that updates automatically. So it's a very interactive modeling type of application. Here we're looking at another value message. This is talking about the amount of repair time that's needed. And the application is smart enough to remember the data that he had already input, so he doesn't have to enter data twice. Really, it's designed to make this as convenient as possible and to keep that discussion going.
So the reason why a customer wants to engage in this conversation is a customer is trying to make trade-offs. And what we're doing is allowing the salesperson to have a real business conversation with the customer.
Now, one thing that's really important is to be able to change the unit of measure. So we've been doing things now, collecting data on a square footage basis. This is a common metric in the construction business. But since this waterproofing product is sold in a per roll way, it's good to be able to show that analysis on a per roll basis. So with just a click of the button, you can change between different unit of measures depending on the discussion. And all that data updates automatically. Now, another thing that you can do is that the salesperson can unclick whatever value message don't apply to that customer. Here you have a list of about 6 or 7 different value messages. This is something that marketing would put out for that particular industry segment. What sales would like to do is focus in on the ones that really are important. Now here, we're looking at the total value, not just on a per role basis or on a square footage basis, but in terms of the overall project, the aggregate value for that particular customer. And that's what's being changed here. Really important to understand the value for that overall customer and to be able to illustrate that very large amount of value here in this particular project. You know, another thing about value is how it compares to what competitors are doing. So even if a competitor is lowering price here, as we're learning right now, this is information that lots of companies want to get, the latest competitive information. This is coming out of the customer interview. It's being captured, but not only that, it's being shown in context of the overall value. So even though the customer will say, hey, our price, the competitor had just lowered our price, you're still in a very strong value position here. Be able to account for that. Lastly, there's lots of places to add notes as necessary, and all these notes can be attached to various pieces of data that salesperson can use in later conversations just for their own records. Okay, why don't we fast forward through that a little bit. So once this is done, like within this 5-minute loop here, you'll see that we've taken a generic value proposition and we've customized it for this particular customer. And engaged and learned about the customer's business, actually demonstrated the value that's created in this waterproofing solution, and is able to move the needle in that discussion around thinking about this product in terms of value. Now, this gets saved. This can be used by the salesperson to iterate and to use it for the next step in the sales process, whether it's in presentations or bids or to collaborate with other folks on the team. All right, and that's pretty much the loop here. And this is all real time. This is one of the great things about having an iPad with the 3G connection. You collect this in real time in the field. Now we want to take a look at what's happening back in the office, and by that I mean, you know, the marketer's perspective. What does the marketer get to see in terms of this information that's being collected? So here we're going into our application here live, and from the sales perspective, we are looking at the feedback from sales tab.
So this is the critical piece, right? Sales has captured value data for us. Why did they capture that value data? Because they're trying to move the sale forward. They're trying to close the business. They've created a custom value proposition for that customer. Why did they build it? Because it's going to help them close the sale, not for our information purposes. However, because we have this application running on the iPad, we're now able to capture it in a real-time basis, and we can look at this critical value data, competitive price, value drivers selected, how much each one of those value drivers is really worth to the customer. We're capturing all that value data in one central location where people internally can start to collaborate on it.
Right. So here you'll see that there are 5 versions of this value story for different companies. These can be downloaded and analyzed by clicking the export. It loads into a spreadsheet which looks like this. So you'll notice, for a marketer who likes to analyze things, this is sort of a dream, right? This is real-time customer information, competitive pricing, customer feedback on the value proposition, other comments, etc. Anything that is changed is highlighted. You'll notice the shading in the background. Very quickly you can get a snapshot of what's happening in this particular market.
So let's just come back to the main point of what we were presenting here, right? We're talking about the iPad and the power of it as an implement for sales. And we're also talking about the need to enable value-based pricing and scale a value-based pricing program. And we all agree with Mark Burton that it's very difficult to implement a value-based pricing program. Technology allows you to do it, and technology in this format allows you to do it specifically. Because what we're capturing now is we're capturing that critical value data that allows us to enable the value-based pricing business process. Prior to this time, it was incredibly arduous to capture this data. Now it's seamless. It's part of the current sales process. Whatever your sales process is, you can use this content in it. You can use this implement in it to drive forward a value-based pricing program.
Thank you, Jay. All right, so that concludes the demonstration part of it. We do have a few minutes for questions, but before we take those questions, I want everyone to know that Leverage Point will be at the Professional Pricing Society Spring Conference next week in Chicago. If you plan to attend, we would love for you to drop by our booth. You may win an iPad 2 for yourself. It's one of the booth prizes we're offering. So please stop by and say hello. All right. Let me look at my colleague here and ask if there are any questions.
Yeah, we've got one question coming in right now. We've had, how do you get salespeople to change old habits and support a value-based pricing approach?
What would you say, Jay, a stick? Or
yeah. Ed's view from the marketing point of view is beats them over the head with a baseball bat. Here's what we're actually seeing, right? Salespeople are looking for this information. They're looking for these gems. They view these as the gems, right? We have a process. I have a relationship with my customer. What are the 3 or 4 things that we do better than the competition? Tell me how I can help my customer understand what that's worth, and I'll win the deal. Mm-hmm. So what we actually find is that salespeople are embracing this. The reality is sales is more difficult today than it's ever been. Customers have more power. They have more visibility into competitive offers. The customers are driving harder bargains. It's difficult to purchase things. If you're inside a corporation today and you want to buy something, it's very difficult to do it. So salespeople are fighting tooth and nail. Gems like this are incredibly valuable to the sales team, so they adopt it. Any other questions, Aaron?
Yeah, one more question. You say it's easy. How long does it really take to implement a solution like this, iPad plus SaaS?
Well, the customer who came forward and showed us that they were using the application on an iPad received no support from us. Right. And he had no problem operating it, and I can't say that he was in a high-tech, highly sophisticated industry.
Right. I mean, the technology is no longer a barrier for this sort of thing. It's very easy to start a SaaS solution. It could be set up within a day, actually. And the iPads, once you get one, that's the hardest part about it, really works really quickly. So it's really a matter of days and weeks. And as Jay said, I mean, the appetite is actually there to get this kind of information and to actually be able to sell on value. So we don't see that as being a year-long process. It's really, something that can be measured in weeks. Any other questions? I think we have time for one more.
Yeah, I got 2 more questions here. I'm just taking a quick look. Can't sales just use ROI or TCO calculators for this?
That's a great question. Traditionally, that is how sales has addressed this with ROI or total cost of ownership pieces. Here's the real challenge around that. The customer is making a decision between alternatives. It's very rare that we're seeing in B2B markets today that a customer doesn't have an alternative. So what you really need to be able to identify is what is your differentiation value, and you've got to help the customer understand it. The classic case is, 2 vendors come to bid on a piece of work. One is a lower price vendor where there's no relationship. The first vendor there where there is a relationship, the price is higher. They have a better understanding of what needs to be done and how they better support the customer. It gets passed over the transom from the customer, the business buyer, to procurement. Procurement chooses the lower cost provider, and the customer ends up unhappy. And we see that all the time, and we can all talk about it from a sales perspective, seeing that happen. Mm-hmm. Sometimes those mistakes are really costly for the buying organization. So the TCO or ROI calculator doesn't allow you to really help that business customer who you're selling to articulate what's the value of your offer and how that value proposition's going to ultimately improve their organization.
Do we have time for one more question? Yeah. And one more question. We have, when you roll out this solution with a customer, do you face a lot of change management, or is there more of a viral spread to this type of solution?
Well, Ed's really responsible for kind of customer adoption. But what we do see is that there is definitely a carrot involved with this, and that salespeople use it with customers, they find it efficient, and that creates a desire for them to use it. And then once they use it, that analytics, that's where the stick comes. That senior management says it helps us make better value decisions, therefore we want to see you use it more.
Yeah, and the other thing about SaaS applications, which is, I think, very beneficial, is that they evolve, right? They evolve on our product level. We are constantly getting great ideas from our customer base, and we're able to reflect those in our monthly releases. So there's always a reason to come back to it. It's not like traditional IT systems where there's a big implementation and then the updates are horrendous. It's constantly getting better. And as people use it, there's sort of a virtuous cycle. They get better and smarter in using it, and it saves them time. So I think for all those reasons, the change management, there's always change management issues in anything that you do. We're not going to say that there are none. But these are much less of an issue with this type of an application. All right, I think we've used up our time. I'd like to thank everyone for spending a little time with us today. Again, we will have a recording of this on our website in the next few days. Thank you. We will be back next month with another webinar, so look for an email about that. And if you're in Chicago, please stop by and say hello. So with that, thanks, everyone.
Thanks, all. Hope to see you in Chicago.